Greetings, everyone. I'm Wayne Murray. I'm with the Thunderbird community team, and we have an exciting set of items to cover today, and also some great participants here to help us answer some of these I- questions and concerns from the community. This is all part of a larger project this week, ending on Sunday with Ask a Fox, where people are challenged to answer questions and support um, and help with knowledge base articles and help your fellow users in Firefox and Thunderbird, whether it be Android, desktop, um, or soon coming to Thunderbird iOS. Um, I'll briefly introduce some of the people here. We have Heather, who is on the community team. We have Ryan, who's product manager for Thunderbird. Alessandro sitting in is product manager. Roland from support, and we have a smattering of other people who we may call on to answer questions. And we have some questions pre-submitted. We're hoping that those of you who are on live through YouTube or other live stream that you post your questions, and we'll get to those as well. And then we have a selection of other items that we'll cover to help keep you informed of what's happening in the land of Thunderbird. So let me switch over to my screen here, and I suppose we can start with some of the questions. The first one is, why is it not possible to right-click and copy the content of an address book entry in Thunderbird? They're talking about Thunderbird Desktop here. And it's true, it's not possible to right-click and copy, I believe, but there is an alternative. You can select and drag on a Mac. That would be with the Option key, and you click on the contact, and then you can drag it to a different address book. On Windows, there's a corresponding uh, click option. I believe it's either Control or Alt. So hopefully that answers that particular question. The next question we have is, in Thunderbird, prior to version 140, I had a gray background for the text of all my messages that I'm reading or in Compose. And I don't have that in version 140. I only have the dark and the light theme choices. Maybe Alessandro can tackle that, but my suspicion is that maybe you had an add-on that provided that or some CSS. The user notes that the only place that it seems possible to change background color is on HTML style. I do recall that we removed that at some point, right, Alessandro?
Yes, correct. So those options to customize the background colors of the message pane and the Compose windows were actually preferences that we were inheriting from Firefox. So they weren't really Thunderbird preferences and have been around for many, many years. We removed them because now that we have our adaptive dark message reader, a custom color in almost all the cases, I don't want to generalize, but it was always constant, this feedback. When we switched to dark mode, dark colors for the reader, a custom background was affecting very horribly the readability of the message. So it was affecting the actual usability of the message pane. Also, those options, they were removed by Firefox, those preferences, because Firefox moved to another type of customization of Chrome versus content. They do things a little bit differently to guarantee top readability, top accessibility, we quickly remove those options that were creating problems. But we are working on a new option that we will fully own to allow users to customize the background color. And since we're going to fully own that, we can do some calculation to ensure that the color that they chose always performs well. Doesn't matter in light mode or dark mode. We can temporarily invert it if it's dark mode or light mode to guarantee always readability. So yes, it is a temporary regression, but done on purpose to guarantee full accessibility.
Great. Thank you, Alessandro. And those improvements are going to help a lot of users. The next question, maybe Ryan can take this up, is what is the ETA for Thunderbird Pro mail services? And there are some follow-up questions.
I'm really pleased that we got this question. We've been working pretty hard at it. Obviously, folks would hope that we would be very careful about rolling out a mail service until it's ready. And that's what we've been working on. We want to make sure that folks can consistently and reliably send and receive mail and do all the things they expect to be able to do with a mail account. And so for those folks who maybe aren't as aware as the person who asked this question, we've been working on Thunderbird Pro, which is a set of services which include a calendar scheduling service, a large file transfer service, and an email service, email calendar and contacts. And we've been testing those throughout this year. We have a waitlist that you can join at tb.pro. That's www.tb.pro or just tb.pro in the URL bar of your favorite browser, hopefully Firefox. And you can get on the wait list for that. And I think we'll be pulling in folks from that wait list. I don't know, probably sometime in October, maybe at the end of October, maybe even early November. That's our hope. We're kind of testing I'll get nerdy with this group for a little bit. We're testing the production infrastructure. So that's the final form of all the backend services and infrastructure we intend to use to provide the service. We're testing that. So we've gone through a test server, a staging server, and now we're working on testing the production server. And so, yeah, we'll update those on the wait list here soon with the status of everything. But ultimately, we're just trying to make sure that we provide a great experience to all of you who are so excited to use the service when it comes out. So this is a lot of words for you'll get it when it's ready.
Thanks, Ryan. A couple quick follow-up questions. Would the pricing be based on storage? And is there a limit to the number of mailboxes for users?
Sure. We're first going to roll out what we're calling the early bird tier, which will just it'll be a standard price for kind of a standard offering that's competitive with other mail services. We do know that there will be folks who want to use more than maybe what that initial tier has. So we will roll something out. I can't give a timeline on that. I just don't know. We need to get some early users in and really see kind of what usage looks like so we can modify the offering if there's people doing things we don't expect or in ways we didn't account for. That's what we want to find out with this early group, the early birds. And then if we need to roll out a much bigger plan, we'll do that. It's probably based on storage, yes. We just don't know what usage patterns are going to be of our users, so we need to learn that. I don't know how much I've said this in the most public of, settings, but this is just like everything we do within Thunderbird land. This is co-creation. So those of us who are using the service early on are going to be co-creating the direction of the product with us. So we don't think we know exactly what everyone wants out of the gate. We're going to be listening and learning and modifying the offering accordingly. So we'll roll out some news on what that original tier is soon. And then based on feedback, we might make some adjustments or really quickly roll out an additional tier.
Thank you. And so the question of how many users a person might be able to create related to the account that we provide.
So out of the gate, we intend to offer one mailbox per user. That's that basic tier that we're talking about. I do think a fast follow-up will be additional, as we just talked about with the last answer, additional pricing tiers that carry with them more mailboxes. Maybe it's not always just for one person. Sometimes it's like I want to invite my family to have accounts on the service. One thing you can do if you don't actually need multiple mailboxes and you just need additional aliases or addresses, if you bring a custom domain, there will be no limit to the number of aliases you can generate with that custom domain. And so those of our users out there who are really concerned about that, I've heard that question a number of times. If you're bringing your custom domain, you can create as many aliases as you want and use those, which I encourage as you're signing up with services. That way, if one of those addresses gets signed up to something that you don't want to receive anymore, you can turn it off. Also a plug for our friends over in Firefox world. There's also Firefox Relay, which you can use to generate addresses as well, throwaway addresses. But yeah, that's the plan as of, initial rollout. And like I said, then I think you'll see more and more of options as we progress and learn more.
I had a quick question. I think we're all really excited about Thundermail, and it's probably the most talked about pro service. But Ryan, can you give us a quick high-level TLDR of what the other services are within that?
Yeah, I mentioned them briefly. Thunderbird Appointment is a calendar scheduling tool. Now there are so many of these out there. Calendly, cal.com. There's a number of them. What we have really focused on with Appointment is trying to keep that simple and trying to make it so that if you're in the Thunderbird ecosystem, this is just a tool that works. Right now, there's a bit of integration work going into making it feel like a part of Thunderbird, so that from the compose window, you can just hit a button if you're using the service and have it populate with a link to book on your calendar. There's a lot of things like that I think there will be quality of life features that integrate into Thunderbird that we'll be rolling out. But right now, my favorite thing about it is it's just quick and easy to use. And if you do a search for Thunderbird Appointment on the internet, you can see one of the early testers, who is also a journalist, has written about that very thing. And the service has evolved since he used it, but I think for the better. And we continue to improve how that service works. That's our oldest one, by the way. So it's quite far along on maturity, although there's always things we can do to improve it. Thunderbird Send is Firefox Send Reborn and encrypted large file transfer. The example I give that I personally want to use this because uh, my team knows this story so well. I send my tax guy stuff every year, and these tools he has had me use, I'm always kind of like, oh, am I uploading my, sensitive information to a, secure portal for this to happen? And I know some people have talked about how they are sending this type of thing just over standard email or uh, things like that. And I wanted to just give our users an option that they felt safe and secure sharing, these types of things. But, you know, a lot of folks have told me that they would like to use this for maybe they do videos. One was a wedding video videographer and was like, "Oh yeah, this would be great. I would love to be able to just within Thunderbird really quickly and easily send some of these large files to my clients." So it can do that as well. And everything doesn't have to be like a really super secret document. It's also good for just large file transfer. Uh, and so that's the other one. And then the one everyone asks about is Thundermail, and that is an email service. You can get a thundermail.com email address, uh, and that is intended to be a service that provides everyone with an option that isn't a big tech option. Isn't We're not mining your data. We're not interested in what's the content of your email and calendar and contacts. It's just, I think everyone who's tuning into this stream and everyone on this call is kind of just tired of our options with these big tech companies and want something different, something that's not doesn't force them to make compromises about their privacy or their values. Uh, and so Thundermail is an alternative that I hope people feel much, much better, much not necessarily like they're sacrificing something when they use it. And I also think that we've already learned a bit about how we can make a better email service, one of which is by using these open standards so that you can use your email address, your Thundermail address with any client that you want to, which it seems like a basic thing, but it's not true of Outlook accounts or even the likes of Tutanota and ProtonMail. It's quite difficult in the case Tutanota, you can't use it with a third-party client. In ProtonMail, it's hard. You have to use a bridge, and it's a non-standard thing. So we're trying to provide a better email experience. Email is decentralized. Email, you can take it and use it and really make your own, create your own adventure. And we're trying to bring that back to email because unfortunately that's a little under, it's email has become less and less an open standard as time has gone on. And we're trying to provide a counterbalance to that. This is what email done right looks like. So that's a pro offering. There is a experiment, Thunderbird Assist.
Yeah.
And yeah, I almost left that one out. I think much of the internet is aware that there's this wave of new technology around LLMs, large language models, for those of you who have been living under a rock. We've been experimenting with that technology as well. And at some point, we will provide some really clever AI features to those who want to use it in the Thunderbird Pro subscription under the name Thunderbird Assist. What we've been playing with is neat summarization features. There's actually a lot of cool things you can do when you have the context of someone's email and calendar in order to surface things that are important. The biggest problem, the biggest drawback of a lot of these services is if you can connect this stuff, what does that mean for your privacy? So right now, we've done a lot of work around with Flower and just in our own research around confidential compute, which is being able to interact with these large language models in a completely end-to-end encrypted way so that even we can't see the content of the interaction with the LLM, which I think is important because when you're dealing with sensitive contents of your email, you just don't want anybody to be able to read that. You want to be selective about who has access to your email. So we're really sensitive to that, and we want that for ourselves. And so we're creating something both for ourselves and obviously for everyone who uses Thunderbird Pro. So thank you. Yeah, that's an important one, although I'm not really willing to give a timeline on that because just like with the mail, it's one of these things that and instead of rushing it out, I would prefer that we get it right and that it be useful and also check those boxes of uh, respecting the user and respecting our values before and if you want to know our values, just look at the Mozilla manifesto. But this is something that folks are going to have to understand is we're not trying to throw anything over the wall before it's ready. We'd like to get it right. So you're on Thunderbird time now.
I think there's a first mention of Thunderbird time. Is that not true? I like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I've received so many versions of this question, and I am truly humbled and by how much excitement there is around these services. Uh, that is amazing, and I'm so glad that folks are really excited. But one thing we've never done services before in the Thunderbird team, and we're not willing to produce something that we don't believe is a good product and put that out into the world. And so we're going to ship these things when they're done and when we believe that they're ready and that they will make someone's life better for using it. And so until that point, it's not coming out. Once it's ready, you'll get it, and hopefully you'll be really pleased with the outcome and what we produce. But that's Thunderbird time. Stolen from Valve time, if anybody knows Valve. Has taken a long time to roll out some of the things promised, and that's probably because they believe in the same thing, and they're not willing to put something out into the world until they feel good about it. So we're the same way.
Thanks, Ryan. A couple things to follow up on that. The dimension of how popular this request is along these services. It is among the top 5 requested things in Connect, where we take Mozilla Connect, where we take questions and idea submissions from users. In support, in many of the comments from users on the newsletter or mailing list. So this is going to be a big deal. A question came up, which I can answer. Ryan partly answered it, which is how are we going to address bad actors in Thunderbird Send and other aspects of the pro services? And as Ryan said, we're going to take these things very seriously. There is I guess you would say a team of people focused on this very question because we know of the experience of other providers and the effect on users. And so that is in the planning. That'll be, a core part of the offering, and also, something that we'll obviously monitor as the product is in use by users. So you can be assured that we're going to take all that seriously.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to that. Firefox Send, this comes up usually because people say Firefox Send was abused, and um, one of the reasons it was abused was because, and I love this about Firefox Send. It's not a criticism, but it's a reality, is that it was a free product that you didn't need a login to use. So while that was awesome, and I was a heavy user of Firefox Send, everyone who hears that sentence can immediately identify uh, uh, an an abuse vector, which is if you don't need a login and you don't need to pay, it's that's going to be a popular um, vehicle for spam and other types of or and malicious material. We have a number of reasons. One of which is that our service is paid. So right there, you need a credit card and some other information to sign up. You will need an account. And additionally, we've, since day one, thought pretty hard about what types of reporting mechanisms. It's ended encrypted, so of course we can't see the content of what users are putting in there, but we've provided a number of uh, reporting mechanisms so that folks, when they do see bad content, can report it. And we're going to be pretty, what's the word I want to use here? Uh, Pretty good about shutting down bad actors and making sure uh, that they're not on the platform anymore. Uh, if you think that sounds terrible, there are still a number of Firefox Send instances out there in the world that don't require a login and don't require payment, and I encourage you to use one of those. But we have a duty to protect, especially because things sent on this network will be at a Thunderbird domain. And so there's some level of trust and safety that people expect from us. And so we're going to make sure that folks using the platform feel like there's a certain level of trust they can put in it, and they feel safe using it. So that's what we owe our users, and uh, we've put a lot of thought into that.
Very good. At this point, I'm not aware of any other questions that we have on the live stream or on chat here. Does that sound correct, Andy? Okay, very good. So we have a number of things that we can cover that are recent in areas of support and other places where we take questions. The first one is problems with adding an account to Thunderbird Desktop. There's been a number of types of places where people can run into trouble. Starting on version 140, ESR in particular, and I'm not sure exactly which release, maybe it was 139. There is a new experimental account hub, which replaces the account manager addition of new accounts. And if you do have trouble, number one, first of all, make sure you're on the most recent version. There are still some problems outstanding that are being looked at or are fixed. There is one that just has a patch as of a couple days ago, and that'll be coming out in beta shortly. I think that's 144 beta, and that is where it gets stuck when you have added an account name and it's in the process of configuring it or trying to authenticate. So there's a couple of areas in that space. What you can do to get around it is to either hit escape or go to Thunderbird settings and turn off the account hub feature. There are some other places where you can get into trouble, for example, only providing the username instead of the full email address. People who are using VPNs can also get into trouble. You want to make sure that you have cookies enabled. This is particularly important for people whose accounts are going through OAuth authentication. I don't know, maybe Alessandro can answer this. Are cookies and JavaScript, must those be enabled for the Exchange, the EWS account addition process?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, because we, especially with the EWS, if we're talking about an OAuth authentication step, we save the scope in the preferences, to remember that. But yeah, I'll double check. I don't think so, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think so as well.
Mm.
And the last item is to make sure that you don't have something which is blocking port 80. For example, having a local web server running, these can intercept the transmissions that are needed by Thunderbird to make connections to your mail server. The next question is email signatures not appearing in forward and replies. You just want to make sure that you have ticked in the compose pane for forward and reply that the signature will be used. Does that sound? You had looked at that, Heather. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I saw a few people had, posted a forum post about this, and it was always that they hadn't, checked those boxes. Another thing to kind of point out is you can choose where your signature is displayed by saying like below, I forget exactly what the string is, but something like at the bottom of the text. And there was another thing I forgot to put in here that someone had said in a response, that to make sure to put your signature in Thunderbird, like not generated from Outlook, because there's some CSS wonkiness that will cause, I think, the signature to misbehave. So,
Thanks, Heather.
yeah.
To jump back quickly to the prior item about Account Hub. So Account Hub is the primary mechanism by which you're going to be able to add Exchange accounts. If you're using the old account generation process to do an Exchange account, you'd have to go through manual setup, which is not very fun. We do have a knowledge base article, which Roland, our support person, has pointed out. And that has information about Account Hub, and there's also something in about Exchange, and in particular, we're using Exchange Web Services. People may be concerned that that has been deprecated, but it will be living for quite a long time. EWS, also known as EWS, and so we'll tackle eventually the graphs version of Exchange, but for now we're doing EWS, and we have knowledge base articles to cover that for you. And if you have difficulty, ask a question in support, also known as Sumo.
And I just want to say that the EWS team is spending some focused time on trying to address issues with Account Hub.
One of the things I always call out when we're talking about EWS that I think is worth just making mention of for the nerds in the audience. This is the first time in a long, long time that Thunderbird has added a new protocol that it supports. So it really is a new era for Thunderbird. It's also hopefully moving out of kind of an experimental stage to something that we can really support and provide for our users. That's a great experience. But since you're listening to an AMA from the Mozilla, if you want to give it a try and let us know what your experience is, that's very helpful at this stage to continue to let us know what other issues you see with it, if any. Or if you're having a great time, say it works perfectly. Thank you so much, and we'll accept that too. But yeah, it's really a super cool new thing for Thunderbird, and I'm excited to hear what people think.
And
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
oh, we'll put some more information out in like a blog post when we really drum up, usage on EWS. But it's important to know that not everything will work right out of the gate, like calendar. I got the opportunity to work with the EWS team and help provide, like, write some code to like support folder operations, and it was very humbling. First of all, the code base is so not trivial. And second of all, adding a protocol, holy moly, there's so much that goes into that. Like, very humbling. So it makes sense that a small team, can't do everything all at once. But calendar, will be worked on in the future after we get some basic exchange mail operations. I can't say flawless, right? No code is like without bugs, but really stable and in a lot of users' hands or fingertips, I guess.
Now, just one more thing to add there. I think that, so many folks probably have this experience. I have a school account that doesn't, so it's a Office 365 account, but it doesn't support IMAP. It doesn't support any of the other protocols. And it was so pleasing to be able to finally drop it into Thunderbird and have it show up. That was really great. And so I think that there will be a lot of folks who really find Thunderbird that much more useful now that you don't have these account types that you can't add to the client. So congrats, and thank you, Heather, for your work on AWS.
My pleasure, but I'm also happy to be on the community team now. It's more suited to my skill set.
Thank you to everybody who has both worked on it and tested it.
Oh my gosh, they are such rock stars. They're humble, amazing rock stars that are providing exchange support. And a lot of people probably found Thunderbird because they had to use Outlook for some reason. And we're like, I don't want to do this. There's got to be something better. That's how I found Thunderbird in, like, I don't know, 2010.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a very big deal. I've been with Thunderbird for 20 years, and we've been talking about doing this or not doing it for 20 years. So it's going to be amazing. Okay. Next item. Let's see, where are we? Thunderbird for Android. There has been some consternation among people who are using Android that they're not getting notifications on emails. And Roland could probably answer this better than me, but there are settings that you need to enable for push notifications. You able to chat about that, Roland?
Yeah.
I don't,
Yes, it is fully documented in the KB article, but as always, it could use some clarity. So as a result of this feedback, I will be highlighting the settings that our former colleague Ketty mentioned, which is you have to enable push notifications on. I just gave a screenshot when I wrote the article, and I just assumed people would know what to turn on, and people, it turns out, don't know what to turn on. But it's quite clear in the screenshot. I will fix it. So Tim, there will be a localization requirement coming your way, and all the other localizers, Pierre Monsinet, Michele, Italian, et cetera, the wonderful Italians, French, Japanese, so many great localization volunteers. But yes, we will be updating that article shortly about Android push notifications. If there's any other feedback about what's unclear, whether or not you read the KB article or not, doesn't really matter. What's unclear would be great. But yes, definitely gonna highlight that. Actually name the setting in the text as opposed to just putting in a screenshot. I think that would be super helpful.
If
Thanks,
I
Roland.
can, I would like
Yeah.
to add a little bit of extra information here because push notifications are extremely painful for us in Thunderbird for
Yes.
Android. We've been
Yes.
battling with that for a while. For just a quick context, the way that notification currently in the past in K9 were handled is that you have two different notifications, one for new messages and one for folders push notification. Those two things are separate for reasons. And then after Android version 15, a new authorization request was needed by the users to grant access to the OS native notification. So there are three artificial layers of stopgaps that make the ability to just use notification easy and intuitive. We are going through all the painful process to rethink all this through. Notifications should be enabled by default. When you open your Android application, it tells you, hey, do you want notification, yes or no? And if you do yes, we just set up the things for you because sensible defaults are very important. But in order to do that, we need to unify all those notifications to a single place, all those settings, remove a lot of old code that made sense 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and doesn't make sense now. So we know how painful it is. This article is a great step forward to highlight all the things that users, all the actions that the user can take right now. But our objective is to make it working perfectly out of the box and very intuitive to change with one switch on and off. And that's it.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
it's a challenge for a number of reasons. Not necessarily the problem we're talking about, but just notifications. When people talk
Yeah.
about getting notifications, there's a few different layers to that problem of and am I getting a notification period? Am I getting a notification when I expect to receive a notification? That's another one that we run into. And Roland and the rest of the support community is doing a great job of educating folks on how to adjust those settings to meet their expectations. But then on the product side, as Alex was talking about, Alessandro, there's also some work on how do we just simplify this all around so that it does kind of what people expect without them having to comb through the settings. And this is one of those areas that we always struggle with, which is by default and leading up to present day, we've always tried to give users a lot of customizability about these things, and maybe taken for granted the fact that sometimes you just need decisions made on your behalf as a user so that things work the way you expect. And so that's what we're going back through and kind of auditing now is everything out of the box set up in a way that makes sense. So expect to see some changes in the product too.
Great, thanks for all those clarifications. The next item is also on the Android side, and I believe I can answer this. It's commonly requested that we provide a Thunderbird for Android version of address book and calendar. And at the present time, we're not giving those capabilities to Thunderbird for Android because we want to focus on the email aspect of the product, and also people already using contacts and calendars on our Android platform that they're well acquainted and familiar with. And so right now we feel that the best process is for people to use those particular products. If you need calendar and you want something that would sync, for example, with Thunderbird, you would want to use a product that supports CalDAV. And in the case of address book, something that supports CardDAV. Both of those are pretty well documented in various places. We maybe could add something in our knowledge base. I'm not sure exactly what we have in terms of what specifically addresses those two protocols. We'll take a look at that, but those are the two choices that you have at the moment for contacts and for calendar. Does anybody else want to throw something else about that over the wall?
Well
Not
said.
about that, but I did want to, before we moved away from the Thunderbird for Android, just kind of point out that while we've seen great contributions in GitHub for the project, we could really use more help in the support forums. So all you have to do is just be reasonably comfortable using the Thunderbird for Android app. Be willing to ask people to elaborate and be a little patient. And please come to the Sumo space for Thunderbird for Android and try and answer some questions. That's all.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. And that's also part of the point of this whole week of events around support, to encourage people to get involved in whether it's desktop or Android. If you take a look at the event webpage, has all the links you need in order to get in contact with somebody or get acquainted with the support structure and process.
Well, one thing I think Alex was probably going to drop in and say is on the calendar and contact stuff, we do hear those requests. I do get it. I'm not using on Android. I'm not using a calendar app that I would really like to be using. I would like something open source, and I know there are options. And so I think that we will be exploring at least what we can do around calendar. That's going to take a while for anything to materialize that's truly serves kind of what users' expectations are coming from desktop, because obviously on desktop we have a fully featured calendar. But we hear you. So just stay tuned and we'll take you on that journey as we go on it.
All righty. We're coming up on the hour, and I have other items, but what I can briefly say before we move on further is that we have places where we routinely communicate what we're doing in the product at the very moment, or in the past, or what we're planning to do in the future. And those places are the blog at blog.thunderbird.net, our release notes that can be found off the Thunderbird website, and also in the Thunderbird planning topic box. All these things can be found from our website, and we'll also put them in the follow-ups information for this recording. Is there anything else that others would want to bring up at this point?
I would like to also plug the State of the Thunder podcast that we do once every 2 weeks, where we also accept. Sometimes we bring our own topics, especially if we have a very interesting effort. We want to use a little bit of a long form to focus on that and talk a little bit more nerdy and explore what's behind the curtains. But also in many occasions, we took questions from Connect or Sumo or the wider Mozilla community. Sometimes I personally go into the Mozilla Italia forum and I grab a bunch of questions and I put them there. So we use also that podcast. If you don't like reading and you like listening, like I do at the gym, I listen to many podcasts. That's also a place to keep informed.
Yeah,
And
thanks for pointing that out.
we also, Monica and myself, host a monthly community office hours where we kind of have a topic. So like the last one that we just had that should be posted soon, I think it's out for editing, was with Alessandro and Jeff to talk about conversation views. So just kind of pick a topic, dive into it for an hour. It's a very informal style conversation. And we try and make those podcasts as well. But I think the video format is maybe a little superior because there's usually slides. But please check that out on the Thunderbird YouTube or PeerTube page.
Yes, and so those two things are often announced on the planning topic box, the mailing list, and they will show up on the blog as well. So lots of places to get information and ways to get involved. So at this point, I think we can wrap up. I want to thank everybody for all the community people who listened in and everyone here on so many smiling faces, and Alex, Roland, Ryan, Heather. Thanks, Andy, for coordinating the video aspects, and thanks for everybody else for participating. Have a great day and see you on Sumo.